Hello and welcome. This is Ravina from The Hindu, and we are back with yet another webinar this Saturday. We do these webinars every Saturday as part of our education vertical, and here we discuss key issues in education and sometimes helpful career tips and guidance for our students. So, today we have a pertinent topic which is about foreign universities being set up in India, and we will truly discuss if this is something that is the need of the hour, what will be the implications of this on the higher education landscape of the country. So in 2023, there were these UGC regulations for higher educations being set up in India because the national education policy sort of talks about internationalization of higher education in India, and this was a step forward in terms of formalizing the rules and regulations as to what will go into setting up of these universities in India. Since then there has been a lot of progress in the sense that Australia's University of Wollongong, it has already inaugurated its campus in 2024. There is University of Southampton, which is operational. Then University of Aberdeen is supposed to start intake in September this year. And there are still a lot more universities which have issued a letter of intent. So maybe in a coming few years there will be a lot of foreign universities operational in India. So since all of this is happening, the conversations about impact of this whole phenomena has really taken place in Indian audience. So there are some people who say that it might take a hit or hamper the progress of public universities in India, but there are also these people who say that uh, it will make international credentials easily accessible. But then there are other people who say that if international credentials become really accessible, then there will be more chances of brain drain happening from the country. But we are also having this conversation at a time when geopolitical situations are escalating, and there are these rising anti-immigrant sentiments in these popular host countries for study abroad, like the US or whatever. So we have a fantastic panel today. We have Mr. Eldo Matthews, who is a program officer at Kerala State of Higher Education. And he leads the Council Scholar Connect Academic Diaspora Engagement Initiative. We also have Mr. Philip G. Aldbach, who is a professor at Monash University, and he is the professor emeritus and founding director for Center for International Higher Education at Boston College. We have Mr. Rahul Chaudaha, who is the CEO of University of Aberdeen, Mumbai. Ravneet ma'am has just joined us. Ravneet ma'am is the CEO of South Asia Deakin University. So welcome to everyone. And before I move on to the intricacies of this topic, I would like to throw the floor open for opening remarks. We can have we can discuss our initial thoughts on the topic. Eldo sir, would you like to go first?
I can go first, maybe, because I have a
Okay.
broader comment, which I'll be very
Yeah.
brief about, which
Yeah.
is, as we all know, we are in the midst of an unprecedented, difficult geopolitical situation, both with the war in Iran, which we don't know what's going to happen, and with broader nationalist and populist policies in many countries, but especially, unfortunately, in my own country, the United States. And I am speaking to you today from Boston. Um, we have in the US a president and an administration which is completely uninterested in international higher education, and indeed is putting roadblocks in the way of students, not especially from India, but including India, coming to the US. The same is true for a number of other main receiving countries, including the UK and Australia and Canada, which are increasingly unfriendly toward students coming to the country. So that's one reason, I think, why foreign branch campuses are interested in India, because then they can educate Indian students without their coming to the home country, if you will. And I have questions about that, but we can discuss that later. So thank you for this chance.
Thank you so much, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ravina, for setting the context, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. Let me approach this question from a slightly different angle. Rather than asking, do we need foreign universities in India? I think the more useful question is, what role should they play in India's higher education system? Because if we look at it closely, India is not lacking institutions, universities and colleges. We already have one of the largest and most diverse higher education systems in the world. So, in that sense, foreign universities are not a necessity. However, they can still have value if they bring something meaningfully different. This could be in the form of niche programs, new pedagogical approaches, stronger research ecosystems, or, of course, global academic and governance practices. We have started witnessing some of the early signs of the functioning of these international branch campuses. Three of them already established, but early signs are a little contradictory. So the focus should move away from entry of foreign universities to their purpose, design, and outcomes. I'll stop here and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, sir. Rahul, sir. Sir, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ravina, and thanks everyone for joining for this panel. My viewpoint is coming from two perspectives, or two arguments. One is that the diversity of higher education system helps students. That's the first thing. And given that we have limited options of getting a global degree at home thus far, arrival of these international campuses really expand the choice for students. So, for example, for many of us who have been following globalization of higher education for these policy initiatives were attempted even two decades ago, 2007, 2008, about bringing foreign universities to India. And for a variety of reasons, practical and regulatory, it never happened. 2 decades later, now finally a policy framework is enabling, which is completely in alignment with what the government of India wants through the National Education Policy and the enabling UGC Act and the GIFT regulation. There is clearly a policy framework which is enabling foreign universities to come to India through a very rigorous process of quality assurance and checks. As an example, the ranking requirement of to be among the top 500. And to put it in context, if you pick up any of the rankings, the Times Higher Education, there are only 10 universities from India which are among the top 500, or there are only 4 in QS from India. So now there are 18 universities which are among the top 500 are coming to India in variety of shape and form to be providing this offer to the students. So my point is key from the perspective that this is regulatory enabled, policy enabled framework. And the second part is that it is really expanding the choice for the students to give them something to earn as a global degree at home. And I look forward to the discussion as we move forward.
Thank you so much, sir. Ravneet, ma'am, would you like to present your opening remarks?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Look, I'm coming in with the perspective of actually delivering a branch campus in India. And to be very frank, it's no longer whether branch campuses are going to be in India or not. The fact is that the regulatory environment requires you, if universities are interested, to follow certain rules and regulations, and actually you can have a branch campus. Deakin University was the world's first university ever to establish a branch campus in Gift City. And we've just graduated our first batch of graduates last week. And we had close to 45 students that graduated from Gift City, and we have 2 programs currently going there. So my view is that IBCs are a reality, and they are not necessarily any different from the disruption that is being caused in the world. And it's a new phase of internationalization for India. It's a shift from outbound mobility to in country global ecosystem. In my mind, global degrees delivered locally, talent within India, knowledge co created and not imported is what IBCs are looking at delivering. And in the success of IBCs in India will not be measured by how many campuses you open, but by how meaningfully they integrate into the growth India story and in the changing Indian environment. I think it's also fair to say that in this phase of internationalization, India is seen as a global knowledge hub. And what you do with the impact of NEP 2020 in providing high quality education that measures beyond what's available or could be available in India to working closely with the ecosystem to develop that is going to be the interesting point. I'm happy to also discuss the challenges that exist because I have lived those challenges for almost 2 to 3 years. And there are many. It's not easy. There are many challenges, and they continue to be challenges. But then when you break the glass ceiling, there are challenges in everything that you end up doing. So I'll stop there for now, but happy to have a good discussion on this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think throughout the opening remarks, something that we have established is that there is no shortage of higher education institutes in India. So if something has to really come, as Ello so said, that they need to bring something really unique to fill the gap that currently exists in the higher education landscape. So we have a question from Ilmdip Kaur, who says that how will foreign universities in India add unique value to our education system rather than just becoming alternative private institutions? So, if we just take that idea of these universities bringing something unique and actually get into the details of it, what can it be?
Maybe I can just start and give a quick response to that one. In my mind, IBCs bring a different pedagogy to India, which perhaps is best practices across the world over. It also helps in looking at industry alignment of branch courses offered in branch campuses, and also looking at creating the talent pipeline that can build employability and employment outcomes. Curriculum modernization and global standards is again a unique perspective and a unique point of difference that IBCs will be bringing to India. And then multicultural approach, where Indian students could go overseas, and students, say from Australia in this case, can come and spend up to a semester. So student mobility and staff mobility between a seamless campus with quality benchmark is something that I think branch campuses will be different in bringing through.
I can add to it if that's okay, Ravina. Just building on that point. First of all, I think that premise is a little bit needs to be corrected. So from the higher education policy framework, we know that Government of India has set the goal of 50% GER, gross enrollment ratio, by 2035. We are somewhere around 30% currently. So in just next 10 years, we need to add 15% more gross enrollment ratio. So the number of institutions are not sufficient, first of all. If we want to really provide massification of higher education to large population, which is underserved, right? That's one part. The second part is the diversity of higher education is still not, so scale is one, the diversity is the second part. So the second thing which IBCs are bringing, to smaller extent, they are going to start very small, and to Ravneet's point, it's a journey. It's a start of the journey. It's not an end, right? So they will grow, they will have challenges, they will adapt, and everybody will come together to have an offering which is value adding for everyone, right? Like students need to ultimately benefit from that. But what is from the diversity perspective, we need to recognize is that example, if you take from the US, right? Like, and I'm a beneficiary of someone who went overseas to study and live and work for 18 years. So I, first of all, want to assert that international experience, which is immersive in nature, cannot be replaced or replicated fully by international campuses. But what it provides is a very unique offering. And that offering is about someone who is willing to spend a little bit more than a typical private university, but far less than someone who wants to go overseas and spend, right? But get a global degree at home. So there is a segment of student who was never assessed in terms of their need. So what is very unique about international campuses are they're completely opening up a new set of segment of students who have needs and they were never served at this point of time. So we will see, like Ravneet mentioned, Deakin has already graduated its first cohort of students. So there is a need students have, and there is a value which campuses can offer by providing this global degree at home. So this is internationalization at home.
Can I make a comment also about, on this general theme? I think we should worry about, well, take into account two things. One is, even if the door is somewhat open, which it now is in India, for international branch campuses, the number of students to be served and the number of foreign institutions who will really want to come, make the investment, keep the investment going in India is quite small. It's fine. It's a good idea. And I think one of the reasons it's a good idea is that these branch campuses, assuming India is careful about vetting them and making sure that they're getting good quality branch campuses, and that the universities are not coming from overseas just to make money. And I want to emphasize that. The two institutions we're talking about here are, of course, not in that category, but many foreign branch campuses in other countries are there to make money for the home campus. And I think that needs to be taken carefully into consideration. But my main point is, this will be a small, I think Rahul mentioned small niche phenomenon in India, but an interesting one because they bring, the good ones anyway, bring new ideas, new models, new ways of teaching, and so on. So this can be an important addition to this huge higher education system that exists in India, but it's not going to educate masses of students.
Yeah. Look, Philip, I totally agree with you. I think that the main thing that we need to think about is how do international campuses bring in the quality and not come in with the idea of just making money, which could be very dangerous and actually could really take India backwards in its internationalization of education as per its journey. So I think you make a very good point about the fact that it should be underpinned with quality and not with the price to make money. And the second thing I think is to ensure that we don't keep replicating what's already available, but add value to what we can bring from overseas that perhaps may not be available in India.
Thank you, ma'am. Ello, sir, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I would like to add a point about increasing the gross enrollment ratio. I think there's no point in increasing the gross enrollment. The discussions about increasing the gross enrollment ratio and how that can be connected to the establishment of branch campuses. Of course, ensuring this affordability and access, it is a responsibility of the government. At the same time, we should not overlook the fact that in India, but the stakeholders are becoming very selective. Even in IITs, I conducted a survey 3 years ago, and many postgraduate seats at around 3,000 postgraduate seats at Indian IITs were lying vacant during 2021-22 academic year. And Rahul rightly mentioned about the office of these international branch campuses. Of course, they are catering to a premium segment. What Philip said, that is absolutely right, because we cannot expect the branch campuses to massify the Indian higher education system, because their objectives are entirely different, and it is a responsibility of the government to address the access and equity issues in the higher education sector.
True.
Thank
Ravina,
you
if it's
so
okay, I can respond to one of the questions I was seeing and related to the comment just now. And I totally agree. First of all, this is going to be a small niche category, if you may say, a segment to start off. But the point here is that it is offering something unique. It never existed, right? And I totally agree. So I was correcting that assertion that, okay, there are enough universities in India. So I was correcting that there is a huge unmet need. But the second part, I also recognize that, okay, this will be a small contained experiment, if you may say, to start with, right? Which is going to serve students who have aspiration to go overseas but are not able to go for a variety of reasons. You can add immigration, you can add finances. And I'll give you another very interesting data point, because as an analyst of student mobility, we study this very closely. I studied it from student mobility segments. So many of you would know that majority of Indian students actually go overseas for master's degree, right? That's the number one data category. And in the US context, it's about 80% of Indian students are in master's programs. It provides a OPT pathway and so on, which means that a completely underserved area is the undergraduate segment, right? Like where people have aspirations, but they don't have access to international education, right? The second is female, women students, right? Again, we know from the data that two-thirds of the, more than actually in some of the programs, if you start breaking it down, more than two-thirds of the students who go overseas are male students. Now, the talent is equally divided. Opportunities should also exist in the same way. But sociocultural aspects, financial aspects, so there could be other constraints which we can't assess. But women have not been getting the same opportunity many times. But what if now campuses come to the country and they expand the opportunities for more students at undergraduate level or more female students to access global learning? And that is good. That is the part of the student choice which I wanted to assert.
Thank you, sir. I think you were talking about this comment by Mandir Garg. I think we have already answered this question, but I'm just flagging what he was trying to say. That my question is whether introducing foreign universities in India would exacerbate inequality in India, where already higher education is a playground of few lacking adequate representation from women weaker sections. So what should be your opinion to address this issue at this point? So from what I get, this is not at this point massification, but we are still experimenting, and this will be for students who can't really go abroad but can afford to pay a little more than private universities. So yeah, moving on to the next point of next point of this discussion. I think there is a lot of I read the guidelines, and the guidelines say that the quality of education provided here should be similar to the quality of education provided in the home campus. I think there are also these guidelines which say that the professors that you appoint here should have similar qualifications that are required in the home campus. So I think that is one of the questions which is recurring with our viewers, that how do we manage to maintain that quality, and what would be really different and what would be similar?
So I do think that this is a very important point, and if branch campuses are to serve their their need and serve their students, they need to bring basically the standards and quality of the home campus, and hopefully the good education ideas from the home campus to India, which, let's be honest, has a rather conservative, traditional approach to higher education. So these branch campuses, which we've all agreed are going to be a tiny, tiny part of the total higher education landscape in India, can perform a useful service. Let me say one other thing. To me, one of the most interesting developments in Indian higher education in the last 2 decades, more or less, is the development of high quality, not cheap, rather expensive, private elite-ish universities in the country. Again, serving a small part of the population, but a growing part of the Indian middle and upper middle class. And they are important. And I think the branch campuses are going to join that group of institutions. Are there enough students to go to the branches and also to the good, the new good privates? I think absolutely yes, because the Indian economy is developing rapidly, and as Rahul pointed out, there is probably a constituency for for these branches. One more point, if I may, and I hope I'm not speaking too long. One of the problems traditionally in India is effective monitoring and regulation of many things in the society. I won't go into the details. And I think it's really important for the authorities, the UGC and others, to carefully monitor the branches coming and the way they function over time. Because again, as I said at the beginning, many overseas branch campuses in other parts of the world are there mainly to make money for the mothership, for the home campus.
Thank you, sir. Anyone would like to add to that?
Can I support that point from Will with one more example, right? Practically, when we are translating a global degree into Indian context, right? There are two regulatory frameworks any university has to adapt to. One is the UGC or the gift regulation, wherever the university, foreign university is starting this campus, has to completely comply and adhere to the norms and standards expectations from the regulatory body in India. However, this does not preclude them to even comply with all the regulations in their home campus. So, for example, with the University of Aberdeen, we are fully have to be compliant with the QAA, plus also and the Scottish body which oversees the quality assurance, plus the UGC. So what I'm saying is that there is quality assurance is not just one level, two levels. And the third level of quality is ultimately the student check, professional check, faculty check, and professional check, right? Like we all are also going to be operating and bringing this world-class, world-ranking universities into a new context. So you can imagine the amount of reputational risks some of the universities are taking. But that can only be mitigated if they are committing more and expecting less.
Yeah.
And that takes time.
Yeah. And I think the challenges for the university are going to be more around qualified faculty. How are you going to get faculty that's going to be able to deliver the pedagogy that you want to deliver from a different perspective? I think that's a challenge, and that is a challenge. Although there are quite a few people that are coming back from different parts of the world back into India, so one could obviously explore that option. The second thing is, of course, that the universities need to provide the return on investment promise, because many of us know that in India, when you look at the success of a business school or success of a college imparting an undergraduate degree, the outcome is completely based on the placement. And the question asked is not just on the knowledge, but the question asked by the parents and the students is, what is going to be my starting salary if I do pick up this course in this campus? So I think the international campuses have to understand these nuances, whereas it may not be as important or as specific in some of our home countries. And I think that is a unique point that I'd like to make with reference to success in India is completely based on clear return on investment to the student equals to jobs in India or overseas. And that's a tough ask because industry today is asking the question, what is the benefit of me employing a person double the salary if I have to from a branch campus vis-a-vis somebody who's done a similar qualification from an Indian institution and is ready to pick up a job at a lesser cost. So these dynamics have to be thought about, and it can't just be a commercial decision to come into India uh, and feel that it's easy to be able to do this and make money. So I think the rationale and the thought process has to be very specific as to why you want to do this in India.
Thank you, ma'am. With my next question, I would like to come to Professor Allback because during your opening remarks, you said that there are a lot of geopolitical tensions and there are these anti-immigrant sentiments, because of which universities being established in India might be a way for foreign universities to still access Indian students and still be able to enroll them. So I wanted to ask, in the UGC regulations, the only thing that it says is that the only way they prevent operations of a foreign campus in India would be if the university acts against the interest of the country. So I wanted to ask, like, will the operations of these universities in India be completely shielded from geopolitical tensions?
Well, of course they can't be, because we're all part of an international ecosystem. But I think that the local branch campuses which come into India are in a way shielded because they're not subject to visa regulations or immigration rules or so on from increasingly unfriendly foreign countries. So in that sense, they have a significant advantage.
Yeah. So it will definitely help with the immigration and visa problems. There is another question by just a second. Somebody was asking about the kind of courses that will be taken here. So I think every university will have its own set of courses, but are there like broader courses that will be offered more?
So in Gift City, for example, they have a clear mandate to offer tech-oriented courses. So we are offering courses like fintech or cybersecurity, business analytics, digital design and stuff like that. So I think each area perhaps will need to find its own unique positioning. When I speak to the Indian government and even in the UGC, they're not just keen on just any degree. Like they don't want the regular BComs and the BAs and that's kind of a degree because they feel that the uniqueness that has to be brought from different parts of the world. So they're quite interested in STEM or STEAM rather related courses. And also the trend, of course, is now moving into not really verticals of different areas. It's a blend. So you've got an engineering course, working through with psychology, working through with business, working through with technology. So I think a blend of these things to create well-rounded graduates that can get employment into the real world is the focus. And that's what I think the Indian government is keen to bring as well.
Thank you, ma'am. I found the question it is specifically talking about advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, or quantum technologies. Do we have any inputs
Yeah.
on these as of now? Yeah.
Yeah, so at Deakin, we are looking at each of these areas. We do offer short courses in quantum, which we will be bringing to GIFT in due course of time. Advanced manufacturing, again, is a program that we offer. So we are looking at those kind of programs for India.
If I can add one small thing, which Ravneet mentioned, which I think is important, and that is Indian degree programs tend to be hyper specialized. In other words, if you go into engineering, most places you study only engineering. And one of the characteristics of good international universities, certainly that's true of my own institution, is that you're studying engineering, but you're also studying social science. You're also learning how to write and how to think. And if foreign branch campuses can bring that approach, which I think to some extent they are, that can be an important addition to the traditional ideas about higher education in India.
Yeah, that does kind of happen from personal experience. Since I moved to us, all the other, because it is such a hyper specialized environment, I have completely forgotten everything, all the other subjects that I've learned during school time. So yeah, my competency sort of got really better in one area, but at the cost of completely losing it in all the others. So yeah, Ello, so there are some articles that you have written which talk about how these foreign universities are sort of setting up in only some hubs, like maybe Gift City or Mumbai. What do you think about the geographicality of it?
Yeah, what we are seeing not only in India but globally, and early signs from India suggest the same, because foreign branch campuses, because we have three international campuses now, they tend to cluster in economically attractive urban regions, because I've seen some questions regarding addressing the unmet demands for higher education from remote areas of India. That's why I want to underline this, because all these campuses are focusing on economically attractive, because these are the catchment areas. They go where there is demand, infrastructure, and of course the ability to pay. The risk is that instead of addressing regional imbalances in Indian higher education, they may actually reinforce them, because states and cities that are already well served could attract more such institutions. In India, this gift city, it's an example. Of course, Mumbai, Delhi, and more institutions are in the pipeline. Mainly, they are targeting cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Chennai. And uh, then the issue of equity will come up, because these institutions often come with high fee structures, and the question will be that who are they really serving? Without strong scholarship frameworks or inclusion mandates, equity remains a concern. But of course, these are not the responsibilities of international branch campuses. These are the responsibilities of the governments, both the state government and the central government. But the most important thing, which is not yet discussed, that is related to the transparency factor, because we discussed about bringing in international standards to in India, but transparency is very important in this context, because in UK and US, the students and the other stakeholders, they have a right to know about the programs which are offered by these home campuses, because many international or collaborative programs globally have been criticized for lack of clarity on the best example is the faculty profile of the Indian branch campuses. So, of course, they are in the early stages, but this is very crucial, because students and families, they rely heavily on institutional websites. So look at the websites of the branch campuses, because if information is incomplete or ambiguous, I'm sure that they will create asymmetry in decision making process. So, taken together, my point is this: these structural issues need careful regulatory and policy attention.
If I can add one thing also to that from an international point of view, I don't think you can expect international branch campuses to go to Mofussil, out of metropolitan areas. And if you look at the experience in other countries, they have not gone to countryside very much. And very interesting comparative point is Japan, which had several decades ago a flourishing of branch campuses, some of which established themselves in rural areas in Japan. And guess what? They all failed, and they're no longer there. So I don't think you can expect the branch campuses, for many reasons that we can't go into here, to go to non-metropolitan areas. Maybe that's unfortunate, but I think that's the reality.
Yeah. Look, I think that taking on to Philip's point, that one of the things that is important to think about is the paying capacity for an international degree. It's never going to be equal to an Indian qualification, no matter how hard the branch campus or the international university decides. The second is also looking at, I mean, Gift City is a unique example, but if somebody was to tell me to set up something in a tier 2 or a 3 city, I would be thinking twice, because the challenges, and the acceptance and the livability and the easy travel for our faculty is the hard ask. And I think that is the reason why I think some of the metropolitan are more easily looked at. Because in our scenario, we have about 70% of the faculty based here and 30% flying in and out from Australia. And you need places which are easy to get to, which are multicultural and have the ability to host people from all over the world.
Sorry, I was on mute. Moving on to the next point of discussion.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Ravina, can I add a point to this one, to what Phil was mentioning in terms of Japan's example? Just a quick one. And adding to what Ravneet mentioned about the faculty access part. And there is a third dimension to it, and that is about industry ecosystem, right? Like GIFT as an example has it. Some of the campuses which are coming in bigger cities like Aberdeen is in Mumbai. Having access to that large ecosystem of industries and institutions allows us to be embedded more tightly, and helping students get the very good outcomes in faculty, building tighter research partnerships, and finally working more tightly with the mobility of both talent from coming from the UK side, at least from Aberdeen perspective, or our students who may be experiencing mobility during their academic experience. So that geography is actually a very critical part, especially in the early stages of the campuses. Maybe in 5 years' time, we are talking about the next phase of development in different cities. Sorry, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. I think that answers the question. So yeah, we have Shri J, who is asking about, will the international universities adjust their curriculum to adapt the nature of higher education in India? I think that is something Eldo sir and Philip sir had touched upon in their article. So yeah.
I would say that our experience has been that you don't have to alter, but you may need to add on to something. Like, so in our structure, we have, like, for example, in our cybersecurity course, there are certain unique requirements that the Indian industry wants, and we need to add those for jobs in India. So in my mind, it is not just going to be one size fits all. However, the basic framework and the structure can be international in nature, but one will need to think about adding some localization as required.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone have anything to say about this question, or okay? Moving on, we have Mr. Shri Kalyan Raman, who is actually asking a question to Mr. Rahul. You spoke about a particular segment of students who could be uniquely targeted, and Mr. Kalyan Raman is curious whether there is any data to share on this.
Yeah, I mean, the data is exactly from the universities which have already started the operations. Deakin, we just heard from Ramit. There is Southampton. There is Queen's University, Belfast. So there are some of them have already started admitting students last year or the year before also, right? So there is that data already coming in that students are enrolling. Now, the numbers are small to start with. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is not the massification solution in the system, but it's infusing a new type of institution, a new type of learning experience, academic experience, and that is where the students are coming at a different tuition price point, right? So the numbers are going to be small, but there are enrollments already happening. We will start our, from the Aberdeen perspective, our first enrollment for the class beginning in September. So that number I'll be able to share at that point of time.
Thank you so much, sir. We have another question from Shri Kalyan Raman, who says, as someone who has explored senior leadership positions in Indian higher education ecosystem in recent years, the focus almost exclusively is on undergraduate education, with nary any thought given to establishing a vibrant ecosystem for high quality research and scholarship. It would be wonderful to see a pipeline where a collaborative pipeline for research is laid out or established. Is this something that we see happening?
I think research is not easy to establish in a new campus.
Okay.
However, one could think about establishing possible research partnerships with the Indian ecosystem. For example, at Deakin, we have two partners that we work very closely with, and they are both the IITs. So one could do projects involving Gift City, in our case, with the already existing research partners. But if you ask me that, can we, in the second year of our operation, establish a very thriving ecosystem in research at Gift City campus? I think the answer would be it's tough and it's difficult to do that. It does come over a period of time, and ultimately research happens with people connecting and ideas that come through, and it needs time for building those. So I think that there are ways that one can do it, but it's not easy to suddenly switch on and off in research.
Yes, if I can add also to that important point, very few branch campuses around the world have a strong research component to them. Why? Two reasons. One is it's expensive to have really world-class or even semi-world-class research in terms of labs and other things. Also, the faculty who, generally speaking, are attracted to branch campuses tend not to be the research intensive faculty that you would find often on the home campus. And as Ravneet pointed out, it takes time. I mean, it took the great American research universities often a century to develop and a great deal of investment to develop their research capabilities. So I would not be at all optimistic that research is going to be a significant part of the system. China, for example, has been pressing their foreign branch campuses, of which there are quite a number, to develop a research capacity on their campus with only modest success.
Yeah, just building on this point, and I think Phil's example is pretty pertinent, that when the government, with all its coffers open to build world-class universities and produce the research output to the highest level, has taken decades. Expecting international branch campuses, to the contrary, when they would be putting their own resources, would be not fair, right? Like, it will take its time, it will take the journey for that to build out. However, one of the very critical components of, at least from the Aberdeen perspective, I can talk about, is the faculty which we are trying to bring on board, and in the whole quality assurance model and the framework, it is embedded into it that how to really accelerate research partnerships and research impact. Now, it will take time, but the intention is not missing. Even in terms of hiring, in terms of the frameworks of time and investment, everything has been embedded into it. The results of it may take a little bit of time when, let's say, a faculty from UK and from the Indian campus start collaborating. Now, you all know, maybe knowing the research output itself from the time you start may take a couple of years to show up in high impact journals, right? So what I'm referring to is that time would be the big metric, which we have to provide a little bit of a slack here for universities to start showing some relevance in terms of research output.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, sir.
can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting example. Of course, these standalone branch campuses, for them it's difficult to promote research at early stages. But in the Indian context, there are some interesting examples. The IIT Bombay's partnership with Monash University in Australia, that's an interesting example where these two institutions joined, and the students, research students from both institutions are working together towards achieving some of the goals of some of the sustainable development goals. Of course, this IIT Bombay Monash, it's not a branch campus, but it's a partnership model, as rightly pointed out by Rahul,
Yeah.
pointed out by Rahul, Phil, and Ravneet. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have two such academies. One we have with IIT Madras, and one we have with IIT Hyderabad, and one is in the advanced manufacturing area, and the other one is in the energy transition area. And we've been having this partnership on and off for a while, and then in the last 5 years, I would say it's really taken off, and we now currently have more than 120 PhD students that are enrolled dually in between India and Australia, so between Deakin and IIT Madras, for example. And that, I think, has really been a very successful experiment.
Thank you, ma'am. Coming towards, we have 10 minutes left. Can we discuss in detail the kind of placements that Indian students can expect?
So let me start, given the fact that we are just in the midst of all that. It's very important to manage expectations on all sides. I think the reality of the matter is that jobs are going to be hard to get, no matter where in the world you are, and no matter which degree you do. So it's really important to really align yourself to where the jobs of the future are going to be. And it is a lot of effort on all sides that actually build a person who's actually going to get the job. I find sometimes the students are quite complacent, and they feel that it needs to come to them. Whereas my advice to students is you've got to go for a job. You've got to have it in you. You've got to have the fire in your belly, and you've got to have the skills that people want. Institutions can't build that for you all the time. It is about skills, it is about knowledge that you come to the university for. But other than that, everything wrapped under it for jobs of the future have to come in, from various exposure experiences and learnings that you have. So, and at the same time, institutions have to understand where the jobs are and develop curriculum which is very aligned to industry. One of the problems we have in India, as we all know, is that we have a lot of graduates, but we have very few employable graduates. So I think it's very important for universities to think about the curriculum and make sure that the curriculum is very aligned to the industry needs, and the students get a good chance to get the jobs. I think a reality check, really, in terms of how you manage expectations and get the result that you want, is going to be a challenge for all stakeholders.
Yeah. If I can add to it in terms of, yes, the expectation setting is very critical. And the other part is the timing and the durable skills, right? So if you go back in 2008 financial crisis, the college graduates from some of the best universities in the world could not find jobs. right? Or if you go back to the 9/11 time, around the world, many graduates could not find jobs from there. I was from one of them actually, so that's why I remember. But the point is, timing is very critical, and we are getting into a place where geopolitics and the AI disruption is going to impact the skills demanded from the graduate, which means that the durable skills, universities and colleges which are building the durable skills in the graduates will provide long-term success of the candidates, not just measuring about what is the first job necessarily they got, but did they really prepare them for the success for the life? And again, I'm personalizing it because in 2000, when I graduated from my MBA, unfortunately, we had this 9/11 crisis, could not find job. When I graduated from my PhD, there was 2008 crisis. Again, challenges there, right? But it gave me the durable skills, those experiences that it took my career to a different direction. What I ask parents and stakeholders not to measure the success of a graduate from the first job. Measure that did the university experience provide them the durable skills to succeed for the life. And that's the hallmark of a lot of times the liberal arts education also in the US, which Phil also mentioned, provide that breadth before the depth is captured. I'll pause there.
If I can add one point also to that, it is likely, we don't know because we're at the beginning of the international branch campus phase in India. We don't know if some of the students anyway are coming to these branch campuses to educate themselves for the international job market, not just the Indian one. And because they will have a degree from a, quote, foreign international university. But again, geopolitics gets in the way. So immigration restrictions and other things may be problematical. I mean, that's just another kind of wrinkle thing to worry about, added on to what the examples that Rahul gave just now.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this brings me to the last question of this session. I think we have covered the topic pretty much, the main points of it. But there's one last question by Anu K, who says, continuous faculty development is also an important part of higher education. How are the foreign universities in India going to take up faculty development?
So for us, faculty development is as faculty anywhere in the world would be. So our faculty that is based here is like faculties back home. So they travel to Australia quite regularly. They undertake programs here that they require, and that's a system that the universities have. And it's not necessarily different from Deakin faculty anywhere else in the world.
And briefly adding to it, the key part also is that the standards used, at least again from the Aberdeen perspective, I know that the UGC regulations expect that the parity between the standards and the processes used in the branch campus for the hiring and the development of the faculty to be very similar to in the home campus. So not just from the direct professional development, but also you can think of from mentoring, from partnerships with the stakeholders in the community. There are multiple ways faculty gets those experiences to really grow through their career. But the key part why branch campuses at least would be very keen to provide that support is that great faculty experience translates into great academic experience for the students also. And that's a proof in the pudding, right? So investing in that faculty development would be in the benefit of the branch campuses, and many of them would do so.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this brings me to the end of this webinar. To sum up what we have discussed over this last hour, one pertinent question was there that it could result in inequalities in terms of access, but we have established that this is not something that would lead to massification of education, but at the same time it would help in some way to meet the gross enrollment ratio, the targets of GER that we have. Also that even though there is not like lack of institutions in India, institutions and universities, higher education institutions, if these campuses or universities bring something truly unique in terms of their pedagogy, in terms of their teaching techniques, in terms of their course frameworks, that would be something that would be the unique offerings which would set them apart from other universities. Then there is also this thing that the university should not really have the solo intent of making money, but truly come here to offer students fantastic education. And yeah, I think we also discussed that branch campuses will try to maintain the same or similar quality of education provided in the home campuses. And something that Philip sir also said, that in this time where there are these increasing geopolitical tensions and visa and immigrations are really really difficult, these branch campuses can be where internationalization of education happens. Though it won't be completely shielded from geopolitical tensions, it would sort of mitigate the visa and other regulation hurdles. So yeah, I think with that we would close the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. There were a lot of questions, and yeah, it was a great panel discussion. I learned a lot too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.